Democratic Congressman Krishnamoorthi. He sits on both the House Intelligence and Oversight Committees. Congressman, I appreciate your time tonight. I want to ask you about John Bolton, but first I want to ask you about Colonel Vindman's deposition because you were there. We understand Vindman said he was convinced Trump was personally withholding military aid in order to force Ukraine's president to publicly announce that investigation into Joe Biden. Now, Vindman, though, does say he's very explicit in his prepared remarks, right, that he never had direct contact with the president. Is there anything more that you need to know to be sure that his perception is accurate?
Well, I think that I can't comment on his specific testimony, except what you saw in his opening statement is very consistent with what we've seen from other witnesses. I think we're going to continue to learn more about what Colonel Vindman said, for instance, from Mr. Morrison tomorrow, his superior at the National Security Council, and others. But I do think that everything I've seen has been consistent with the whistleblower's allegations. And the substance of it is very simple, which is that military aid and assistance to the Ukraine, as well as a meeting at the White House between Zelensky and Trump, were premised on bogus investigations being conducted against President Trump's domestic rivals. And that's very, very serious, as you know.
So, yes. Now, John Bolton, again, from what we understand, Vindman said, went to Bedminster, right? So the president, when he was there in his August break, went there personally, along with the Secretary of State and the acting Secretary of Defense, to personally try to get Trump to release the aid to Ukraine, to stop what he was doing. Vindman testifies, he wrote the memo for Bolton. Bolton was rejected directly by the president. I know you're not going to comment on the exact testimony, but let's just assume that our reporting here is this is what happened in the room where you were. What would it tell you about how determined Trump was to withhold the aid? If indeed he is directly approached by his Secretary of Defense, his National Security Advisor, and his Secretary of State, and he turns them down.
It's deeply disturbing. You have basically the secretaries of what they call the interagency process, which is involved with Ukraine, namely the State Department, the Defense Department, and the National Security Advisor, all imploring the president to do what is in the country's best interest, America's best interest, which is to supply this aid to the Ukraine to help it defend itself against Russia. So if Trump isn't listening to them, his foreign policy and defense advisors, then he must be listening to somebody else, and this foreign policy is being done not in the best interest of the country, but in the best interest of someone else. And here we learn that Rudy Giuliani, from every witness at this point, is running a shadow foreign policy, which is basically in the best interest of his clients, people like Donald Trump, but also others who may be foreign actors. So this is disturbing, to say the least.
All right. So, look, a lot of this is going to come down to, your next round of witnesses, right? And
right.
We're learning from a source that the committee has asked John Bolton to testify behind closed doors. His attorney is telling CNN tonight he will not appear without a subpoena. But it's not even clear that he would show up even if he were subpoenaed, right? I mean, he could say executive privilege. He could try to fight this in court. Others, right, have been told not to appear, that you guys subpoena them and they show up. Bolton
right.
may well absolutely not do that. So this is a really important question because he's at the heart of it. Personal conversations with the president
Sure.
repeatedly. We know that from all the other testimony, he didn't like this at all. It smelled terrible to him. He didn't like it. Will you
right.
fight Bolton in court to get him to testify no matter how long it takes?
I don't want to get ahead of my chairman, Adam Schiff, on this particular issue. But what you're bringing up is extremely important because on this one issue, I didn't think I would ever agree with John Bolton on anything. But on this particular issue, he raised strenuous and strong objections to Rudy Giuliani conducting this irregular foreign policy. And I think that witness after witness, especially in their opening statements, has said that John Bolton instructed them to basically put up a resistance or go to the lawyers or do something to basically get our foreign policy back on track with the Ukraine. So I think he's a very important witness, potentially.
Are you concerned that Bolton's issue is with Rudy Giuliani and not with the president? What I'm getting at is, are you confident that his testimony would indeed back that this was the president of the United States personally demanding a quid pro quo at the cost of the country to help himself personally? Are you sure that Bolton would back that up?
I can't be confident about his testimony. Honestly, I want to hear what he has to say. However, what we we can be confident about is that he was kind of at the center or the nexus of the White House, the State Department, the Defense Department, and other agencies who are basically trying to get our foreign policy where it needs to be, which is to assist Ukraine as Congress appropriated money to Ukraine, and basically to remove the hold that had been placed in the summer of this year on aid to the Ukraine for reasons that we've talked about before.
All right. Well, Congressman Krishnamoorthi, I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you,
sir.
Aaron. Thank you.